Good. So good afternoon from HR Excel. My name is Daniela Đurić and I work as People and Organization Development Consultant in HR Excel. And I will be your host today. Today we expect more than 100 people, actually more than 200 people accepted our invitation to join. And those people are coming from Serbia, Portugal, Poland, all countries across Europe. So it is really great honor to welcome you all. A few technical guidance before we start. I strongly invite you to pose the questions to our panelists. There is a bottom Q&A where you can really write down your question, and we will make sure, even with this tight time frame of 70 minutes, to answer some of your questions during the event. We would also like to record this session so we can, of course, send it to you after this and also share it with HR professionals that showed the interest but failed to connect due to other responsibilities they had. Today's session is called Decoding the Future of HR, since our aim is to decipher the future industry changes and the trends, assess their impact on our practice, and present some future-centric tools. A year ago, unexpected COVID pandemic emptied our offices. We may agree we had different plans for 2020, right? We were forced to quickly adapt and change the way we work. We faced the change that happened overnight. Was that opportunity maybe to challenge some of our beliefs and maybe transform the ways we used to work? And how can we build on this experience further? Those are some of the questions that triggered us to connect today and discuss about the future trends of HR. So let me introduce our panelists. At first, leaders that I found the most inspiring, especially during the time of uncertainty we faced in this pandemic crisis. They all share the passion in supporting both businesses and people to become the best version of themselves. So I would like to welcome Ben Greeven, the founder of Talento, a global cloud provider of talent solutions. And I would like to add ESS that we are falling in love in this market. Ben is a serial entrepreneur, coach, consultant, mentor, and startupper. And he passionately shares his deepest belief that wisely integrated HR technology frees up some time for HR people to really put people at first at the core of HR. Ben, welcome. It is a great honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Daniela, for the introduction. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Today with us is also Alexandra Dutina. Alexandra is HR Director in Carlsberg, Serbia. She said for herself she's a lawyer by profession and philanthropist by definition. Her diverse HR experience comes from aviation, hospitality, and FMCG industry. And she finds her mission in HR management to nurture healthy organizational culture, continuously improve people and processes, embrace change, and support organization in short-term and long-term strategy. Alexandra, welcome.
Oh, easy. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
I would also like to introduce Mihailo Jankovic. Mihailo is CEO in MK Group. He would say seasoned CEO with entrepreneurial attitude, but I would like to add a business leader with proven track record in leading businesses through business transformations and turnaround. Mihailo shaped his experience in multinational companies as well as private regional companies, and he finds his passion in enabling people to reach their full potential and developing new generation of leaders. Mihailo, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Today with us is also a female leader from Poland, Iwona Suchomska. Iwona is the founder of Keystone Consulting in Poland and also CEO in Talento International. She is a female entrepreneur and she would say hard on ground with a soul of social activist, which I really admire very much. For 15 years now, she's been running Keystone Consulting, whose main goal is to change people management styles in business. She is teacher by conviction and awarded female leader in business. Ivona, it is a great honor to be with you here today.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation to this session.
You're welcome. And today we have Sonia Cardoso joining us from Portugal. She is founder of SLOT, Human Resource Agency in Portugal. When we were talking and introducing, I would say some months ago, Sonia shared that she's the most proud of her team, their development path and their achievements. Most of them are with her from 2006 in SLOT, which is really amazing. She gained her experience both from working within multinationals and as in HR consultancy. She recognized the value of Talento solution, and as of 2017, she is a partner in Talento. Sonia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It's a real privilege to be here with you, with this amazing group of professionals. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. It is great to be your host today. I want us to have a discussion on selected topics, including the challenges we recently met, but as well as about solutions we maybe used or we need in order to overcome the crisis. And above all, maybe to do something which is almost impossible, to predict the future and discuss upcoming trends and the winning perspectives. So why HR matters now more than ever? Maybe we should firstly ask a business leader. Mihailo, let's talk about the impact that COVID pandemic made on business. What are the top 3 business challenges you faced as a leader and how HR supported you?
Well, pandemics is still ongoing, so the challenges we had from the beginning are still remaining. I would say the first one would be securing employees' health and safety. And when we talk about health, it's not only the physical health, it's also the mental health. The mental health part, I think, is becoming more and more important. And organizations and leaders are becoming more aware of it. The second thing, I would state business continuity. So mitigating all the risks that we are facing, but also thinking ahead about what's coming after the pandemic and preparing for the growth. And the third thing is the change management. We all have to adapt to the new normality and new reality. And we also have to think about what's coming after the pandemic. Why this is important? We are living in times where the intensity and dynamics of the change is becoming greater and greater, and it will not change. It will be even more dramatic and even more intense in the future. Therefore, I think the change management is something that will separate change management, and the emotional intelligence will separate successful leaders and organizations from the other ones. So in my opinion, those are the 3 things. On the other hand, every crisis is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for those who act quickly and for those who think ahead and think in advance. So maybe in this part of the world, we had a lot of difficulties in the previous decades. So we went through a lot of rough times. But by going through the challenging times, you get more confident and you get more resilient. So we should look at every change as a possibility and opportunity to grow, to get stronger, and to get more resilient. As the saying says, calm sea never made a skilled sailor. So from the HR part, I would say it was also very interesting as well as for the leaders, because HR had to drive the change and had to drive the change management together with the leaders in the organization, because we changed the way of working, most of us. They had a huge role in keeping the people motivated and also safe, so they could perform, because if you're not feeling safe, you cannot be productive or effective. And they needed to, even more than before, understand the drivers of the people and the motivation of the people, so they could support them in the best possible manner. And on top of that, as usual, they need to understand the potentials that we have inside the organization, so we could, in a best possible manner, utilize the resources and the potential we have in the organization. Also, COVID brought, I would say, accelerated digitalization in the way we live, in the way we work. And probably 18 months ago, if someone asked us if it's possible to work remotely, or 80% of the people to work remotely, we would not agree. But it just proves that everything is possible, and that even though we think we are organized at the highest level and very efficient and lean and so on, that we need to constantly challenge the status quo and think about how we can get even better and work even more effectively.
It's very interesting perspective. Thank you for bringing it here. Alexandra, from the perspective of HR, you just heard what challenges were facing Mihailo from the business side. How was your experience during this period?
Yeah, similar to what Mihailo said, it has been a very difficult year, and it still is. And from that perspective, of course, we found ourselves in the middle of some kind of a human crisis, and emotional crisis, and health crisis. From the positive experience side, I would say, and I would emphasize that positive experience today, because we all are aware how hard it is, but it is what we have learned actually so far. It's been a great time for me personally to learn, to grow, and to have such a wonderful lessons given by this world and crisis and everything else. My experience goes back to March, when we got ourselves in the middle of this crisis, and the HR had to adapt to this crisis quickly, to have some solutions, and as Mihailo said, to motivate people, actually to support leaders to motivate their teams, and to transfer quickly from face-to-face meetings and way of work to online meetings, and etc. What we have done and what I have learned so far is that two things were most critical and most important. One was internal communication with our employees, and the second was trust. Actually, it was honest and clear communication with trust from the day one. We got so many different information from all sides, from media, from organizations, etc. So what we actually recognized is that our people and everyone, including myself, needed some kind of a safe hand and safe environment, so you can work in while things are happening outside. We had great plans for 2020, and it didn't happen because COVID happened. But it made us teach us how can we actually gain from that, and how, again, we are talking about people and not only numbers, and how can leader actually learn from this experience, that by getting the team together, but by motivating team, by upskilling your team inside, and by giving them opportunity to grow and to feel safe and engaged on your work, is actually something that will drive you through any crisis. So this is something that I have experienced so far. So it's people, it's trust, it's honesty that you have to show within the previous year, that helped us succeed in this change that we are facing right now.
That's interesting perspective, I would say, what you shared, because bottom line, people are social animals. We have a need to connect. And when remote work was introduced, we really were in search for technologies that can help us create working environment, but also environment where people feel valued and supported. Yeah. The question is how our teams were upscaling, and what are experiences. Maybe.
Yeah, my experience was, agree. My experience was that what we have done is quickly recognized that not every team is similar. We have plant, we have brewery, and the production, logistics, and sales and support business, support functions, and very diverse teams within the company. So what we have done at the beginning of the crisis is empowering leaders to organize their team and way of working in the way they think is the best for their teams. And quickly, in just few days, we transferred from face-to-face work to online work wherever that was possible, or to organize shifts in the plants in order to have safety environment, because we again learned that safety is not something that is a procedure and it's top of our agenda somewhere in the office. It's the way we live. So we start again a lesson that we have.
Do you hear?
By empowering leaders to run their teams.
Excuse
I can't hear you, but
yes. Can you hear Alexandra?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Some technical difficulties. Sorry for interrupting you.
No worries. So by empowering leaders, it was actually the key decision, and it was the right decision to make to provide our people safe environment, new way of working, and to embrace change that will lead us to have again successful results at the end of the year.
Thank you for exchanging. These were experiences that we were facing in Serbia, so we can also reflect what was going on market across the globe. Ben, how do you see it? What was the change that faced HR? We were previously in war for talent. Is that still on? Does our agenda changed?
That is an interesting question. Is the war for talent still on? Well, you mentioned in your introduction this change, this pandemic. We got the first ideas by the end of 2019, and then in the beginning of 2020, it started to slowly drip in that something was facing us. I think the big difference between this crisis and if I look at our audience and I talk to people, I think we all know that we had an internet bubble crisis in 2000, 2001. We had a financial crisis due to the American markets or the stock markets in 2008, 2010. But this is a completely different crisis, and I think it struck us differently because, as Michaela mentioned, it is a health crisis. It's not economical crisis. It's a crisis that hits us as a community. So question is the war for talent still on? I think somebody pushed the pause button on the war for talent at this moment. Because if you look at the reality, organizations at this moment are looking, how do we need to respond to the challenges that are facing us, now in the crisis? And by now we know we're now nearly a year in this crisis. So we kind of know how to deal with what's ongoing. But I think most organizations since about, I would guess, 5-6 months are looking ahead. What are the challenges going to face us when this crisis slowly, moves away? And it's not going to go away on one beautiful summer day. No, it's only going to go gradually away. And it might be that it's coming back or it's evolving. So organizations are looking like, what's going to be after that? So I think the war for talent is on pause. But on the other hand, if I listen what is common in organizations, when we were before the crisis, I think Sonia gave a talk in I think the end of 2000 or the middle of 2019 in Lisbon on upskilling or changing skills in organizations. That was at that moment emerging. I think we are going to be faced with that very rapidly. Organizations are tremendously training people in all kinds of digital skills, presentation skills, working around using technology. So upskilling is on. So if you want to categorize in the war for talent, yes, organizations are going to be looking for, you can call it digital skills or technological people skills. You will see that. That's one thing. I really liked what Alexandra said about trust and honesty. I think that is a topic that is not addressed enough. I think one of the outcomes of this pandemic is going to be that people are going to be looking at organizations for more sharing of information, more sharing on what are my capabilities, what are your needs, what are expectations, how are we going to get together, how are you going to help me to get there? I think that sort of, call it cooperation, is going to be very important. And then the word honesty and trust, I think, are going to move up this scale. They're going to get more and more important. If I look back at, we did a large program in end of 2019 for a Belgian technical company, not so important at the moment, but it was about, you all know this, changing the analog profiles into the digital profiles. That was very trendy during the 2018, 2019. Nobody's talking about that anymore. We all realized that we need to become digital and all the rest is too late. I think that will come back. That will be necessary. And I see, if I look at the last 3 to 4 months, I see interesting organizations globally looking at which are the competencies we have in our organizations, which one do we know, which ones are present, but have we not identified, which potential for competencies of the future are there, and how are we going to identify them, how are we going to help people develop them, but also what are our clients expecting from us, because the business of the client has changed, so the demand on the customer is, and this whole cycle has changed. So we don't know all the challenges, we don't know all the competencies, we need to align both. So I think that's a big challenge. And if I may end on one, this week there was a publication of a study in Belgium that says 10% of all employees are looking for a different job. That might not seem a lot, but if the study also said that before COVID, it was only 5%. So this is double. And as a side note, it said about 1 in 5 people have a problem with motivation today. I think all of us in HR, and I don't know how big our audience is, 103. If all these people are in HR, I think one of our huge challenges facing us is, how about motivation? How are we going to keep our people motivated in the aftermath of COVID? That's something that occupies my time and my mind very, very much at these days.
Thank you, Ben. So, Ivona, we just heard, I would say, almost a wholly 3 parts of leadership that mentioned across the discussion so far. We were talking about values like honesty and trust, but also how to keep people motivated and how to manage with it, and how to build the right competencies and upskill the current teams. So from your perspective, how leaders behaved in regards to people agenda so far, and what are the challenges in front of them?
Well, if we look at this present situation, and thank you, Ben and Mihailo, for making the change in looking in this called crisis versus the previous ones, because the reason for the crisis is a huge one, and it doesn't affect only some branches of industry, it affects everyone, every person, because it's the health crisis, right? So definitely also the approach, how to mitigate it is different. And basically everything has been said already by my previous panelists, that what everyone was looking for was some sort of stable environment. So if you look at any population, then most of the people are still working. So where are you looking for this stable environment within your working environment? So who are you looking to or at? Your leaders. So that was a kind of difficult time for them. And I think those who are the winners are the ones who basically made it possible for them to already put those values in practice, to be transparent and to give the people the honest information. Well, we know that the market, the market and most of the branches of industry were running in 2019. That's what you also said, Daniela, in the introduction, that nobody expected the 2020 to be like that. We all had high hopes and lots of plans for further development, and suddenly it was stopped, right? But some of the companies were already getting prepared for this sort of any crisis. So the question is, maybe we should all be ready for any crisis and have a contingency plan, right? Nice to say, well, easy to say, much more difficult to do it. But I know that if I were to compare what people did in the previous crises, although different reasoning for this, the first crisis, 2001, 2002, they first decided to cut costs. So what is the biggest cost? People. So 20 to 30% out. Nobody looked whether this is the person that should stay or go, but that were just the numbers. And thank you, Alexandra, for saying this, that now we are looking at people, not the numbers. The next crisis, 2008, 2009, first move, not cut the people, but lower the salaries to everyone. And only then look whether there is any room for optimization within the FTE's numbers. Right now, secure and save the people. So from the HR perspective, and I am a great believer in it, I'm happy that the agenda of the leaders changed. That first the people and only then the numbers.
Yeah.
Would anybody like to comment, guys?
Oh, Ivan, it's amazing. First, the people, I think it's like the mind shift that we need to work on. People first. Exactly. It's humanity, honesty, sharing, communication, and people at first.
And I would like to add one thing. Alexandra, from your perspective as a HR leader in a really international big company, you did have probably the resources to help your managers, to empower them to work with the teams in this new environment, right? As a consultancy which is based in Poland and working mainly within Poland, our first order, which we done of course free of charge during pandemic, was, can you help us create the rules for the remote work? And that was a seller of premium products which has a franchise branches all over Poland, okay? So they asked us for the rules. So you can imagine that people without HR, that it must have been very difficult to go through it, right? To really secure the people and give them the, let's say, tools and instruments just to carry on.
I agree. I understand your question, but again, we are talking about the trust. Again, it's something that we did at the first site. We sent our people home and we trusted that they will work as best to their knowledge. And they will work as much as possible to keep the business continuity, which Mihailo mentioned. And afterwards, we were dealing with remote work procedure, with what we will do if something, some injury happens during the work at home, etc., etc. But at the beginning, it was trust that the employee is really at home or remotely working for his company. Yes, he's not watching TV. I don't want to think like that. He's working at the best of his knowledge. And about the motivation, just one point to what Ben mentioned. I strongly disagree that HR needs to motivate all employees. HR is to enable leaders, business leaders, to keep their team motivated. And they need that accountability is on their shoulders to say, hey, I'm leading, I'm having a team of 5 people, 7 people, and I know what my objectives are, some KPIs, and I know how to strategically lead my team to get the results. But how I will get results? By having motivated team. And I'm accountable as a business leader for motivating my team, whatever motivation means. Sorry for interrupting and jumping in.
No, thank you for this. It's very valuable comment. Mihailo, you just wanted to comment as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the thing that was mentioned. For me, talking about digitalization, we are seeing in the future we will replace the manual work with machines. but it is more important to focus now on people, as they will be the ones that will make the difference and that will add value with their creativity, with their innovation, innovative thinking, and in the end with their emotional intelligence. But we still see today, even though we went through the pandemic and we realized that basically people are the ones that are making the difference and bringing the results, we still treat people as cost and machines as investment. So if you ask me, I would like to see in the future years, that will be the success of it and of the leaders, CEOs and other leaders in the organization, that we start treating people as an investment.
Thank you for this point, Mihailo. So it seems like we are talking about the values. How do we treat people? Do we have a trust to our employees? It seems like organizational culture was something that make a difference. Maybe it was even a deal breaker or deal maker for some companies. We saw that actually employees were rewarding companies with praise and loyalty, even if they showed that they take care of their well-being. And that Mihailo also mentioned at the very beginning. So Sonia, in your opinion, what attributes should HR have in the future, having in mind all these values that should bring good culture in the organizations?
Okay, so I agree with you all. So I'm very motivated. There's hope on the HR world. So for me, I think this is a momentum of visibility that will transform the HR role on a more strategical way. I think that organizations are in imperative need also to reimagine their talents landscape, particularly their talent pipeline strategy, once technology is really changing things dramatically. So I think that HR should be able to bring people together for a common purpose. So once you put passion and purpose together, people can create good impact on business. So for me, I think that HR is even more important than we thought it was. So people analytics can save decisions, people and organizations can act quickly in time of crisis. We've just witnessed the largest remote working experiment in history right now. So I think that's one of the most important things to take into account is to know our people, know them deeply.
I think I would like to pause here and maybe reflect a bit how important HR data are and HR analytics at this moment for HR. Maybe Ben, in one of your lectures, you mentioned the fact that by the middle of this century, machines will know more or as equal as humans. In that sense, where are we today in HR tech?
It's a good one. That's the question of the point of singularity, where everybody's talking about, is it 2024, 2047? I don't think a lot of us have been busy with that over the past 12 months. What we have been busy in HR tech, I think, is, let's be honest, HR tech companies were hit as hard as any other company by the crisis. If I look at what we experienced ourselves, I mean, if you have an assessment company and organizations are not hiring, or organizations are training less because people are at home or training differently, you would be an idiot not to think you would not be affected. So you will see that over the board. So what do I see in HR technology is that companies are joining forces. Companies are understanding, HR tech organizations are understanding that maybe if I know something about soft skills and another organization is very strong on hard skills, maybe we should not be developing the same technologies each independently of us, but why can we not develop the surrounding technologies together? That is one thing you will see. The second challenge is maybe it's not the right thing to do in an environment of HR people, but the abbreviation API is becoming one of the most trendy words, I think, certainly over the last 12 months, and it will be over the next 12 months, because HR will definitely want all those technology solutions to communicate with each other. So they will want all these technologies to have connections. And if we're working with our recruitment tools, then we want them to connect to our SAP environment, and we want them to connect to our website, and we want them to connect to the job site and to the assessment site. It basically needs to become one environment. So that is one thing. If you open that box, then the next thing that comes around the corner is security. The next thing it is security. Let's not spend too much time on GDPR, but there are those ugly four letters again. We need them. We're busy now in 2 years, but you will also see that blockchain will come around. How can we have in one place all the information of an individual? Just think about the idea. If somebody is looking for a new job, he might apply 5 times, 10 times. He will have to submit a CV 5 times, 10 times. You will have to take an assessment or an interview or something else. Why can we not store this information in one single location, have a digital ID, and share that information? So those are questions we're going to be seeing in tech. That requires a lot of adaptations from organizations. I think professionally organized organizations have it a little bit easier to do it. The smaller the organization, as Ivona pointed out, the challenge becomes bigger, but they're competing for the same talent in the near future. And I am not so optimistic as to the, I wouldn't call it reaction, but I would call it involuntary response of people. And it was briefly touched. We need to invest in people. I like that, but let's change the words. I've never liked the expression human resources. Humans are not a resource. They are the most critical element in any organization. So we need to change that thinking, in my opinion. But I've had people ask me, can we not see how people will react when we go back to work normally? As if it was a free choice of people to work home. Let's forget that. We put a gun to people's heads called COVID-19, and we told them, you stay home. This is not a voluntary choice to work at home. If you look at the pyramid of Maslow, I mean, we were forced to do this as a society. I am, for one, very concerned and interested how this global society will respond to the, let's call it, regained freedom, how we will deal with going back to work. We have a crisis now, but I think that what will follow the crisis might potentially be the biggest shift in talent and people in organizations that we have seen over the last 100 years. And then I'm deliberately going back to 1918 at the end of the Spanish flu episode. So I think we are in for a change. Technology, absolutely necessary. There will be a big shift towards technology. But I think the biggest point of attention, and maybe I keep on stressing it, our attention needs to go to people. Our attention needs to go to what do they want, what do they expect, how we deal with their fears, their concerns, their worries. I like it that people reward organization with loyalty, but I'm also a realist. When confronted with change and having no solution, then stay where it's safe. Once that the need for safety is no longer there, then you will see the expression of other concerns. So once we are all vaccinated, you will see the other worries and concerns and reflections of people rise to the surface. So I think HR is having an extremely interesting period ahead of it. As someone said, never waste a good crisis. One of the biggest learning curves ahead, but it's going to be a very steep learning curve for everybody in HR, yes. Mm. And maybe in the meantime, Daniela, I gave an answer to one of the questions I saw. Do you believe in that we will all go remote? No. I think it will filter into our way of working. We will go into a hybrid way of working. But are we going to all stay with this? I don't think so. I think it will be a change, but it will not be a continuous permanent change now.
Thank you for this comment. So we just heard the answer from Ben's side on the question we got from our participants. Someone else maybe would like to comment?
Ivona.
Ivona, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think what Ben was referring to was already kind of touched by Mikhailo as well on the safety part. So basically, as employers, we will need to make sure that we can grant the safety from the physical point of view, place of work, professional point of view, that people can upskill and also know that they are doing their job well, and mental health as well, so emotional safety. I think what is also very much needed, and which will be a challenge for HR is much more contact. So stay connected with your people, because basically people need to know that if they are not having the privilege to go to the office and work next to their coworkers, that anytime they have a doubt, a question, whatever, frustration, that there is someone they can go to. And that will be the new part of HR role. Maybe in big organizations it is like that, but in small, rather not.
In practice, it's not like that, yes. What I'm hearing is HR will have to deal with the new way of working, etc., etc. What I think we are missing is that we should not forget fun in our work, because HR is a lot of fun when you love your work. So I look at the future time as and challenges that we will get, and nothing will be the same when it comes to the way of working, but it's still a fun that we will actually enjoy if we look at from that perspective. And if HR will be the influencer to a senior leadership team, and the environment will help us with this crisis to show that human resources or HR department or the team is of utmost importance, again, to get to the results that every finance director or MD wants to see, of course, or sales director at the end of the year. But we will probably not go to remote work 100%, but some kind of a combination. And we did a short survey here in Calgary, Serbia, and 85% of our employees said that combination of remote work and work from the office is the best way for them forward. And we are now experiencing that. Few days we are working from the office, and then few days from home, with no change, like you have to come on Monday from 8 to 4. It's gone. This time is, I mean, I believe it's now the past. And flexibility for me is something that HR and leaders will need right now for the future. Flexibility, besides hand in hand with technology that Ben described. Also, employee experience will prevail over the employer branding. You can prepare the best employer branding campaign, and you can invest your money and get the marketing agency, etc. But if your ambassadors and your employees within the company are talking differently than your employer branding campaign, you did nothing. This is why, again, trust and honesty and communication and everything is important. You build your things in the house and then go outside. You keep your people motivated and happy, satisfied, and with the clear views and clear KPIs and clear goal. Where are we going? And yes, we are in storm now, but we are heading to the ocean in a peaceful way. They will know how to respect it, and probably they will stay within the company. Not sure if you understood what my point was.
May I add something, Daniela? What Alexandra said, it's really important. The fact that the employer branding doesn't work by itself, but we need to do more internally with our teams. If I can share with you briefly my experience, well, in our company, it was the first time that we need to go at home 100% remotely. So for me, the biggest challenge was to keep people motivated, engaged, happy, as Alexandra said, and very close to me, as Ivana also mentioned, which is very important. And most important was to have a previous knowledge about their behaviors and their performance, because I did assessments previous with my people in order to understand them and to work with them. And for me, it was really important to understand in what way I can help and manage each person according to these circumstances, because I had people that accepted very well the remote work, other people that get a risk of demotivation, some people on risk of burnout. So it was really, really challenging for me. And to have that information at front about them, it's really helpful when we are talking about this world changing. So I would like only to close my conclusion with this experience of Alexandra and Ivana, which I really recognize myself, and I truly agree.
Thank you for sharing, Sonia. And Ivana, you would like to add something, please.
I just wanted to add to what Alexandra mentions, this employee experience. Well, we need to treat it similar to customer experience, right? Because we care very much for our customers. We don't want to lose them. So now it's the time just to look at our employees the same way. But there is always the reverse side also for the employees. That will mean quite a lot of responsibility as the expectation of the employer. It's more like partner B2B contract now, even if this is a work contract. I mean, in the way it is understood, right? Delivery at a certain time with the proper standard and quality, right? That will be also a change for some companies, how to deal with that.
I agree.
Maybe if I add one little thing, there's an interesting point Alexandra made about the employee experience. We have all seen the explosion of employees sharing information and positivity on all social media networks. Let's not forget that we now forcefully trained our people to share on all the social media platforms. They will do so if they're happy. They will also do if they're not happy. So optimizing that customer or employee experience, I think now has moved way up on the list of responsibilities of HR and to train people. I've been reading the whole time about questions. Somebody asked me or asked us what's important for HR students in the future. I think I have two words, and you don't need to agree, but one would be get on board with digitalization. I mean, if as HR you're not tech savvy on tools, you're going to miss out. And the second thing I would say, let's focus on being empathic. Let's focus on being empathic to people, because that's a skill I think HR is going to need very much in the coming years.
And if I may add to your discussion, it becomes really a paradox how physical distance made in some situation social closeness. Like we become even more closer to our people, and those examples of true leadership was really inspiring during this period of crisis. Yes, please, Mihailo.
I just wanted to add on that. I mean, during disruptive times, as pandemic was, people are looking for guidance, security, comfort. So what was mentioned previously, that a confident, positive, but also empathetic way forward was required by the employees, and followed with a constant and honest communication. And I think it will continue to be required from employees. Yeah.
Ivana, you wanted also to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what Ben said on the social media information share. We do need to think about it, and of course each of us has the need to share. So maybe the employers should also think about giving this possibility in-house, like those surveys that well, sometimes they were made because there was some sort of trend, okay, and then nobody did anything with the results. Maybe now it's the time to have a tool as well for that, that people can ventilate how they really feel, if they feel secure, safe, and what their needs are. And then you have just your own pool of things or issues that you can focus on before it goes out.
Mm. And it seems like it becomes very important to keep people and work on their skills and motivation as well. And by some recent studies published by LinkedIn, there's been like increase in internal promotions for more than 13% in this period, which is really important message that employers can as well send to their people, that they are safe and that they can upskill and maybe prepare for some future business challenges.
Yeah, I'm also facing the same trend that you are mentioning, Daniela. It's internal promotion versus external promotion, actually increasing the percentage of internal promotions, which is goes again in hand with crisis and about the lessons that we had during the crisis, that rely on your people that you have. Of course, the combination of these two, external and internal, is always the best. But very often we get to forget our ambassadors and our people within the company, which we should not, of course. You have a few questions in Q&A.
Yes, I think actually that we circled through all of them in our answers. But if you would like to add your opinion to those questions before we start to come to summarize our conclusions, please, you may add.
There is one very open question that is more like philosophical. Huh? What if we fail to embrace the new HR? I do have some years experience, but I don't feel like being Madame Soleil. I would say like we don't have an option to fail. As HR, I think that should be one thing. For second, we are all in this together. I mean, we're all people together in this. This was not something that we can pinpoint, it was there or there. I think we're all learning. I think we're all trying to do our best. I liked a lot of things that were said, like you need to put responsibility for teams at the lowest potential team level at the responsibility. And I think we all of us need to assume that responsibility, this partly ours. How can we make this a success? I think something might be interesting to learn from how we deal with the pandemic. A person wearing a face mask is not going to solve the pandemic, but by wearing your face mask, you're at least helping. So even that little thing every individual of us is doing, that will be the same thing we will have to do later in the organizations. I think the employee, HR, management, leadership, shareholders, we haven't talked about that, shareholders, I think everybody in this has a responsibility to carry there. I don't think it's only the responsibility of HR. I just wanted to point out they are going to be in the middle of it because it's about people. It's not HR's responsibility, but they will be the large catalyst. They will be the mediator in that process. But it's a responsibility of all of us.
If I may add, so basically the HR, it becomes also kind of middleman, right? Of learning and teaching and desiring those new skills that are needed to be able to be in HR tech. Yes,
yeah, I fully agree. That's what makes, in my opinion, the role for HR so interesting. You're at the crossroads of the most valuable asset. I don't like that word either in an organization. It's the most valuable part, and to be working there doesn't feel like working. I mean, you have a possibility to bring change. And I think we should all embrace that.
Well, I really love what we exchanged here. It seems like we started from all eyes on HR and we ended up with different cards between leadership, HR, and people engagement within the organization. So yeah, we got one more question. Maybe we can after this make a conclusion. Can you tell us a bit about Talento tools? So we have Sonia, we have Ivona and Ben as well. So who would like to give their impression on Talento tools?
Yvonne, I'm going to give the sales pitch to you.
It's not a sales pitch, it's
Session.
it's a so I will handle it over to you, Ben, because we will add some.
Okay. A little bit more. I think I'll do it briefly and not make a pitch out of it. Talento was created out of the idea to get a better understanding of people and to understand how people can make strategies work for organizations. That was my purpose. I was a consultant at that time. I wanted to have a tool that would allow me to understand people in a way to align the need of organizations and the need of people and bring that together. That was 15 years ago. Today, Talento is an online talent solution assessment company that still does the same thing. We measure people, talent, personality, and predict behaviors. Now, there isn't a more interesting thing to do today than to predict behavior of people in situations. COVID is just a situation. If I look at it from a psychological point of view, it's a situation that happened to us, and our behavior is the consequence of that situation having an influence on our personality. So this is where we are. That is what we do. And we bring that language, we'll bring that insight into the language of the customer. We believe that we don't need to tell the customer how to think or how to work or what values or what models, but we try to adapt to the customers. Over recent years, what has become more important is analytics. I mean, great if you do a hiring campaign, but if you don't understand why your people in a certain production plant now have an attrition rate of 27%, where before you had 13%, then your hiring is not going to matter. You need to understand what's going on, and in that, people analytics can help. Once you understand that, it goes back to combining behavioral data to performance data. Once you understand those data, you can transfer that into what do we need as an organization. If you understand what you need, then you can adapt your hiring program. So I think that becomes more important, and we are smack in the middle of the challenge of integrating all data. Let me give you a little example. One of the biggest demands we get is how can we correlate Talento people data into our ATS, and how can we ask our ATS, I need this and this and this kind of person, and how can our ATS give us the profiles we need? Those are the challenges. It all looks very simple, but we're talking about people. We're talking about behaviors. We're talking about interaction of people. And we're in that crossroads, understanding people and how they interact. And that we do in a digital way. And for those who need to know, we now do that in 27 languages. So that's in a nutshell what Talento does. Let's hope that was a good answer for the asker of the question.
Sonia or Ivona, would you like to add something from your experience as a partners of Talento for years now?
If I may, I can add something. Well, Talento, it's about people. So it's about looking for the singularities on the people and to take the right decisions. As I said before, one of the most important things to take into account is to know our people, know them deeply, understand and predict behaviors and performance aligned to our business. If I may, to share with you a business case, a real case, that I think that it's very interesting in order to understand the benefits and the potential of Talento tools. I can share you a story with about two clients that we have, two airlines, Lufthansa, a German company, and SATA, Açores, a Portuguese one. So those two clients, airlines, were struggling with the need to have qualified licensed maintenance engineers. So probably you don't know, but this is very critical for the airlines. In fact, the maintenance field And these kind of technicians, they are like the Saint Grail on the aviation sector. So both airlines, our clients, needed our help and expertise to reduce their costs and also to recruit the right people to take the right decisions with high levels of motivation and learning. Some insights for you that I think that are important. So each training on those airlines has a duration of 2 years, and the main purpose was to keep the best students or potential trainee line maintenance engineers at the end. However, our clients, the training directors, showed us some important figures. Those trainings have a cost of 12,000 euros per trainee. So 100% supported by the airlines, with a turnover at that point of 60%. So let's make counts. So each class has a group of 16 students. It's huge numbers, expressive costs. So beside the cost, some of the students were leaving on the middle of the training, others after the training. Most of them at the end of the training were leaving for another airline with the training and the certification that were paid by our clients. So we realized that they were only making technical tests, knowledge tests, traditional interviews, and that's it. So the only thing that they were doing was that. So when we asked to our clients a question, how could you access the behaviors, the potential, the motivation of those people for the learning and for the job? So they realized that it was impossible, in fact, using only traditional methodologies like the traditional interviews, especially according to the requirements. So each person is unique, and the best way to understand them, to keep them engaged and motivated, is to look deeply. So facing this scenario, we propose to apply Talento, the assessment tools, which is the tool that we use, by the way, in which we will help them to recruit the best trainees in order to reduce the turnover on one hand, as it has higher costs for the companies, to make the costs on a more efficient way. So we started the project, we assessed people, predict behaviors, we evaluate each person according to 30 performance indicators, and last but not least, their drivers, their motivation. So it's the gold mine of information that we could get from Talento assessments. So in short, I will give you some examples of something that we can get from a traditional interview that we can get with this kind of assessments. For instance, for this training and job requirements, we should look for people with low scores on impulsiveness, for example, and high scores in composure behind other relevant indicators, which we couldn't ever see, as I explained before. We started a pilot on both airlines. We applied all these tools of Talento. We recruit the best people because they are still working there with a reduced turnover, okay, and it was a successful story. It's the best way to explain you the potential of Talento.
Wow, it's an amazing story, and I hope that for some future webinars we will have more time to talk about Talento and the successful cases that you have in the practice. I will launch now a poll for all our participants to choose the topics for our next webinar. And while they are choosing the topic, let's use the following. We have 4 minutes to close the session. And I wanted to ask you as a panelist, if you will choose 3 attributes for HR of future, what you would like HR to be in the future that is in front of us. So 3 words, 3 attributes that you would like to see in HR. Some of them we were talking about today. I just want to gather your opinions, please.
Okay, I can go. Maybe it's not 3 words, but I will try to use as few words as possible. First one is to be the change agent. The second one is to enable growth from within and, if needed, attract the proper talent from outside. And that includes also understanding the profiles and the skills that are needed for the future. And the third thing would be to be the, how to say, to enable the proper culture and values throughout the organization.
Thank you, Mihailo.
Can I add to that, Daniela?
Yep.
I fully agree with the enabler part. That was my number 2. I think we should be in that enabler role, like identify, offer, and guide, mean to really enable. I'm going to make the same point for my empathy again. I think empathic. And as a last one, I would urge HR to embrace technology, but not technology for the technology to free up time, to make time for people. Technology needs to be there to make more time for the people. So the tech savviness should go for that purpose and not for any other purpose. I think that should be the 3 main things I see.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ben.
I agree, and adding that HR should be a change enabler. So someone who is pushing and driving for a change, then influencive HR, someone that will, I explained it earlier, but why positive influence is very important and critical for the strategy and for the company itself. Have fun, don't forget. And one add on, we have a question that we didn't touch just briefly. It's about students entering HR in the future. And I get this question very often. It's about entering in HR after studies, but it's also finding the job after certain age and a certain experience. So we have both young students that are having issues with finding the job, and we have other category that is actually somewhere after 50, 55 that can in Serbia, I'm talking about Serbia, can hardly find a job after that. So these are 2 big topics that we don't talk too much about on these kind of webinars. So this is my suggestions for some of the topics in the future.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you so much.
To the list, I would add one thing for HR, people's assistant.
Thank you, Ivona. And Sonia?
Well, I also voted empathic ability, a trustful person, and also a transformational HR.
Thank you. And it seems like we can say that HR role lays in change, being change agent and enabler, but also in enabling growth, which means more on L&D side, and also leadership with empathic ability and embracing the tech, because it's there. Thank you all for being there today with us. I will briefly show the results of our poll. This is our next topic. It seems like all topics are important, but organizational culture is one step ahead all the others, and we will make sure to bring something to you. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for being today with us. I would a special thanks to our panelists and also to all participants.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.